Hey guys, I'm Lee Morris with Fstoppers.com, and in today's video, I'm going to help you decide which laptop you're going to buy next. All right, today's video is going to be all about Windows laptops. I absolutely despise the new dongle book by Apple. If you like having dongles and extra cables and everything, go for it, enjoy that. But I personally am a Windows user, and so in today's video, we're gonna be talking about 4 of the most popular Windows laptops out, and these are 4 computers that we actually own and use here in the Fstoppers office. All right, so let's talk about our newest laptop here. This was just sent over to us. This is the HP 14-inch ZBook X2 G4. Sorry, I would never be able to remember that name otherwise. And this laptop slash tablet is very unique. It's kind of similar to the Surface Pro and the Surface Book, but in a lot of ways, it's significantly better. Let's talk about the design. First of all, this is a tablet with its own kickstand, very similar to the Microsoft Surface Pro. You can use it just like this, and all of the internals are built into this one unit here. It comes with a stylus. This is different than what Microsoft is doing because you actually have to pay extra if you want to get the pen. And what's interesting about this pen, most digital artists like this more than Microsoft's version because this is using Wacom technology. This means that there's no battery in this pen. You're never gonna have to worry about charging it or the pen actually dying on you. It's just going to work, and it's included in the box. You're gonna save $100 or more right off the bat. Not only does this pen have pressure sensitivity, it also has tilt sensitivity as well. This detachable keyboard is absolutely fantastic. The top of this thing is made of metal. It feels just as good as any other laptop keyboard I've used, but most importantly, this thing connects via Bluetooth. So when it's plugged in, it's actually charging this up. There's a small battery in this, but if you want to detach it, you can still use it. This is huge for digital artists, and when we show other laptops in a second, you're gonna figure out why, because if you're trying to draw on the screen and you have to leave the keyboard connected, you're gonna be hitting the keyboard with your wrist all the time. If you detach the keyboard and you need to hit buttons like Alt, Control, Option to actually do different things with the stylus, and you have to do it digitally on the screen, it's a nightmare, and nobody really enjoys doing that. So the fact that you can actually put this computer separate from the keyboard, but you can still control everything with one hand while drawing with the other, makes this a game changer. Now, let's say you don't want to use the keyboard at all. There are options with this as well. As you can see on the screen here, we have buttons down the left and the right side. These buttons are 100% customizable. One button that I find myself using all the time is the touchscreen on and off button. If you want to use the stylus, but you don't want your palm to ever mess with the screen, just tap one button. It's going to turn touch sensitivity for your hand completely off instantly. The kickstand on this tablet is fantastic, and if you want it to be straight up and down, you can leave it like that, or you can tilt it all the way back, and this is a fantastic drawing position here. So again, if you're a digital artist or if you're a photographer and a retoucher and you find yourself using a Wacom pen anyway, this is an awesome option for you. Now, when you think of a tablet, most people's mind go right to the fact that, yeah, it probably has Windows 10, but it doesn't have any ports. This one actually does. It's got 2 USB Type-Cs, it's got HDMI, it's got USB Type 3, it's got the SD card slot. Oh my gosh, that's so huge for me as a photographer. And then of course it has the headphone jack. If it didn't have the headphone jack, I wouldn't even be making this video right now. And then if you want even more ports, we got this dock from HP. It plugs in with a single USB Type-C cable. This has absolutely everything you could need. Now, here's the best part of this computer in my opinion. This thing is on a massive sale right now. You can save $700 off the cheapest version. I think you can get this for around $1,100 to $1,200. So this is such an amazing deal, especially if you're about to purchase a really nice, expensive Wacom tablet anyway. This is a Wacom tablet and a computer all built into one. So if you're the type of artist who's already working in Photoshop and Illustrator with a stylus, you're probably looking at this and saying, this is my dream laptop. But here's the thing, it's not my dream laptop just because I don't work that way. I've never gotten good with a stylus. I like the mouse and keyboard. And so if I'm not going to be using this, then I really don't need all these shortcut buttons on the side of this that make the bezel incredibly thick. For me, I want as much real estate as possible on the screen. The other thing is, because they're fitting this into such a small form factor, it's not going to be quite as powerful as the Dell laptop we talk about in a little bit. So it really all comes down to how you're going to use this. Let's move on to the next laptop. This is the Microsoft Surface Book, and I feel like this is the pinnacle of current computer design. At first glance, this looks like a normal everyday laptop, although it is incredibly well built. But with the press of a single button, it will unlock the top screen and you can remove this, and it's actually a full-blown tablet. And unlike the HP that we just looked at, the bezel on this is much more reasonable, and you wouldn't even know that this is a tablet at first glance. It really does just look like a laptop. Now, what's really interesting about the way that this works is that the keyboard underneath it has a battery and has a graphics card. So when the tablet portion is connected, you have longer battery life and you'll have more graphics power. Now, when you remove the tablet, you're going to lose that graphics card and you're gonna lose the majority of your battery life. So you only have 1 to 3 hours of battery life when this is on its own. I love so much about this laptop. I love the way that it's built. I love the design of it. I love the way the pen feels. I love the way that it feels when you're actually drawing on the screen. I love the way that this connects with a small magnet right on the side. Everything about this is so well thought out. But the one issue that I have with it is, once again, I just don't find myself using a stylus very often. And because when the tablet is disconnected, it doesn't have very good battery life, I have never once actually disconnected the tablet other than for videos like this and to show my friends, hey guys, look at what this laptop's capable of doing. And so for that reason, I don't recommend the Surface Book to that many people. I just feel like this is an incredible feat in engineering. I'm so impressed that Microsoft actually came up with this. But in practice, at least for me, I don't find that I use it that often. And if I had the extra money to buy something as expensive and nice as this, I would put it towards a much more powerful computer. So now we're gonna talk about the Surface Pro, and I actually recommend this over the Surface Book for most people. Here's why. Although this laptop doesn't actually have a graphics card, most of the people that I'm recommending this to don't need a graphics card anyway, especially if you're going to be using this in Photoshop, Lightroom, stuff like that. A graphics card may have no effect at all. I love this because the keyboard is detachable, just like it is on the Surface Book that we just looked at, but this has its own kickstand. So it makes it much more reasonable to actually use in the real world when it's not connected to the keyboard. Just like the HP that we looked at first, this kickstand can move in a variety of different ways, which makes drawing on the screen a lot easier than if it was connected directly to the keyboard. Now, remember when we talked about the HP having the keyboard that detaches that actually connects wirelessly through Bluetooth? The Microsoft Surface Pro does not do that. And normally you would think that's not a big deal. Why would you need the keyboard if you're going to detach it anyway? But when it comes to retouching, this is a big deal for a lot of people. You're constantly having to hit certain buttons on the keyboard, and when this is detached, it's just not going to work. The reason why I love the Surface Pro so much is because I feel like it's the most well-rounded laptop I've ever used. You can use it full-blown as just a tablet. If you wanted to walk around and use this with just your hands, you could use the keyboard that pops up on the screen, you could use the stylus, and you'd be perfectly happy. If you wanted to use this as a digital portfolio and you wanted to hand it to a client, they would feel right at home with this. It works very similar to an iPad. You would never want to do that with this HP. This thing is just so big and so heavy, and these huge, gigantic bezels and all these buttons on it. It's just way too complicated to actually hand to somebody in a meeting. But the Surface Pro, I feel like you could definitely do that. Now, if you're a photographer, one thing that you're going to need to know is that this does not come with an SD card slot. It has a single USB Type 3. It also has a display port in the side, but you're going to need some sort of dongle if you want to get an SD card into this. I wouldn't ever recommend anybody buy the Surface Pro as their only computer. I don't think it's quite powerful enough. I definitely want a bigger screen if it's going to be my main workstation. But if you're looking for a second or third computer, maybe something that's small that you can easily travel with, that you can also use as a tablet, I think this is one of the best products on the market. Finally, we're gonna talk about the workhorse here at the Fstoppers office. This is the Dell XPS 15. I feel like, although I love the technology that's in all of these tablet, laptop hybrids that we've talked about earlier, when it comes down to just straight productivity, I want power and I want a big, clear, bright screen. And I feel like this is the best computer I've ever tested with those features. The Dell XPS 15 has one of the best monitors I've ever seen. If you buy this, you're definitely going to want to upgrade to the 4K touchscreen option. Again, I don't really ever find myself using the touchscreen option, but this 4K screen is so vibrant and bright and everything is so accurate. It's just a pleasure to use this laptop. Now, if you find yourself in Photoshop all the time, you're editing one image at a time, you probably don't need the most powerful processor or the most RAM or a graphics card at all. I personally find myself working in Photoshop with lots of different files, and I find myself all the time in Adobe Premiere editing tons of 4K footage, so I want as much power as I can. Out of all the laptops that we've looked at so far, you can spec out the Dell XPS 15 with the most powerful internals. When it comes to ports, we also have the most options here as well. We have USB Type 3, we have HDMI, we have USB Type C, headphone jack of course, and then on the right side we have another USB 3.0 and then an SD card slot. You gotta have that SD card slot. If you wanted this to be your only computer, you could definitely do that. I would highly recommend getting the Dell dock that plugs in with USB Type C. It adds all of the ports that we had with the HP dock, and what you can do is just plug in one cord, it'll charge up this laptop, and it will connect you to multiple monitors, it will connect you to Ethernet and all of your accessories that you might have on your desk. So let's recap. If you are a retoucher or you're a digital artist, I would highly suggest checking out this HP, especially for the prices that they currently are going for on B&H. If you're looking for something much smaller that you can use as a tablet and you might be able to hand to somebody in a meeting, I would highly recommend the Microsoft Surface Pro. This thing is incredible as a laptop, but it also is fantastic as a tablet as well. But if you're anything like us and you just want a computer that you can work on, you just want power and you want that big, bright, beautiful monitor, I hate to say it, but I'm choosing the boring Dell XPS laptop. It doesn't have all the technology that's built into these hybrid laptops, but hey, sometimes you just gotta get to work. This is the best option we've found. For more information just like this, head over to fstoppers.com for daily free content, and if you'd like to check out our full-length photography tutorials, head over to fstoppers.com/store.